She was just another customer until the undercover black woman owner got a secret note from a waitress that exposed everything. Power, betrayal, revenge. This whisper didn't just shake a restaurant, it shook an empire. Stay till the end. Monica Lattimore stood alone in front of Harrison's Chop House, the wind catching the edge of her worn scarf as she stared at the peeling red letters above the door. Her faded khaki coat hung loose over narrow shoulders, and a gray knit cap clung to her salt and pepper curls. To most, she looked like another tired black woman braving another cold afternoon. To Monica, she was a sentinel, and this building, a place she had once dreamed into existence, now stood like a stranger. The surrounding scene offered no comfort. To the left, a pawn shop sat dark and shuttered. A rusted trash bin tipped sideways, spilled torn napkins, and a cracked takeout box into the sidewalk. The air reeked of burnt grease seeping from the rear kitchen vents. As Monica stepped closer, a gust of wind carried the stench higher. She blinked, but didn't flinch. Inside, the hum of a television filtered through the wall from the dive bar next door, mixing with the whine of an overworked air conditioner. The glass door creaked as she pushed it open. The little brass bell above it gave a pathetic clink, but no one looked up. The floor near the entrance was slick with streaks of water. Someone had tried to mop, but the job hadn't been finished or cared about. At the host stand, a young man with dyed silver hair leaned over an iPad, AirPods in both ears. Without glancing up, he mumbled, "Sit wherever." Monica didn't respond. She walked toward table 9, the one closest to the kitchen doors, and quietly pulled out the chair. From her coat pocket, she retrieved a folded napkin and wiped down a dried smear of sauce on the table's edge. Then she sat, calm, still, watching. Across the room, a server dropped a tray of glasses. A sharp crack of shattering was immediately followed by the bark of a man from the kitchen. The dining room fell silent for 3 full seconds before noise awkwardly resumed, like a radio fading back from static. Then he appeared, Bryce Mullen. Towering, broad-chested, polo shirt 2 sizes too tight, shaved head gleaming under the yellow lights. He stood at the intersection of the bar and the kitchen doors, arms crossed, eyes darting, not walking, not smiling, just watching, commanding. Monica shifted her gaze. The POS system at the bar was years outdated. The order printer jammed and groaned. The cameras above the kitchen doors were angled to view both the staff and any customers who got too curious. She noticed everything. "Hi, ma'am. Can I get you something to drink?" The voice was soft, almost rehearsed. Monica looked up to find a thin young woman standing beside her. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, sleeves wrinkled, dark circles beneath her eyes. Her name tag read, Lindsay. "Water," Monica replied, "and tell me, what's still worth ordering here?" Lindsay glanced nervously over her shoulder, then leaned slightly closer. "T-bone," she whispered, "if the chef hasn't had a meltdown yet." Monica nodded. "Medium rare. Collard greens, onions on the side. Hot, not warm." Lindsay blinked once, then jotted it down and walked away. Monica watched her every step. 15 minutes passed. Monica used the time. She counted the number of employees on shift. She tracked who flinched when Bryce walked past. She noted the way a prep cook hesitated before handing over a plate. One server got called into the back for placing a spoon wrong on a dish and came back out 5 minutes later pale and silent. When the food arrived, Monica dissected it with her eyes before her fork. The steak was cooked correctly. The greens were cold, the onions soggy, the sauce off. Not expired, but indifferent. She ate slowly, pausing often. Lindsay returned wordlessly with the bill, placing it on the table and retreating without a word. Monica reached for it, flipping it open. Something was tucked between the folded check and receipt, a small piece of notepad paper, ripped unevenly, folded twice. She opened it under the table. "If you are who I think you are, please don't leave without talking to me." The handwriting was rushed, the ink slightly smudged. Her fingers curled around it, folded it back once, then slid it into the side pocket of her purse. She lifted her glass of water, taking a long sip. Her eyes flicked to the bar mirror. Lindsay was wiping down table 5, her eyes locked, not on the table, but on the mirror, on Monica. Monica stood, placed 2 crisp $20 bills beneath the plate, far more than the meal required, and pulled her scarf around her neck. She turned, walking slowly past the bar, past the host stand where the young man still hadn't looked up. Her hand brushed the wall lightly. Her gait didn't change. Then instead of heading for the exit, she turned and walked straight toward the back hallway, past the signs that read, "Employees only." She didn't knock. She didn't hesitate. She moved like she belonged there. Because she did. Monica had barely brushed her fingers against the door labeled, "Employees only," when a voice behind her sliced through the hallway like a blade. "Restrooms are to the left, ma'am." She turned slowly, already knowing who it was. Bryce Mullins stood with his arms crossed, posture rigid, lips curled into something between a smirk and a warning. His tone was polite, but the cold behind his eyes stripped it of any warmth. "That area's off limits to customers," he added, taking a single step closer. "I'm not looking for a restroom," Monica said evenly. "I need a word with the server from table 9. A private one." Bryce tilted his head, sizing her up like a misplaced package. "We don't usually allow guests into staff areas. Company policy." His gaze dropped briefly to her old coat, her scuffed shoes. He saw what he wanted to see and dismissed it. Just then, Lindsay appeared, carrying a tray with freshly cut lemons. "It's okay," she interjected quickly, her voice breathless. "I'm on break, just 15 minutes. Bryce hesitated, eyes darting between them. Lindsay didn't flinch. Monica didn't blink. After a beat, he gave a tight nod and stepped aside, his jaw clenched. Lindsay turned on her heel and led Monica past the swinging door, down a narrow hall into the dry storage room. Inside, flickering fluorescent lights stuttered overhead. Boxes of napkins leaned precariously in one corner. An open bottle of bleach sat uncapped on a shelf. The air smelled of old fryer oil, sweat, and cleaning agents. Burnt fatigue layered with quiet desperation. As the door shut behind them, Monica pulled off her scarf and hat, her silhouette shedding its disguise. Lindsay leaned against the wall, nervous energy radiating from her fingertips. Monica's voice was low. "The note. You wrote it." Lindsay nodded, eyes locked to the ground. "I wasn't sure you'd see it." "I saw it. I didn't know what else to do." Lindsay's voice cracked. "Nobody listens. Everyone's scared." Monica took a small step forward. "Start talking." Lindsay inhaled and the flood began. "Bryce keeps the schedule locked in his office. Every morning it changes. Random cuts, mysterious absences. If someone questions it, they lose hours. If they complain, they disappear. No one knows when they're working until he says, 'Tips?' We have to pool them, and he distributes based on performance. Whatever that means." Monica's brow furrowed. "And no one's reported this?" "One guy tried, assistant cook. Talked to someone from corporate when they visited last quarter." She hesitated. "The next day his locker was empty, and we were told he'd quit. We haven't heard from him since. No phone, no goodbye." Monica looked over to the laminated shift schedule hanging by the door. Her eyes scanned the names, the layers of scribbled pen marks and hasty reassignments. It wasn't a schedule, it was control, rewritten daily. "What about deliveries?" Monica asked. "Supplies, inventory." Lindsay hesitated again. "There's something off. Orders don't match what we receive. The liquor invoices change. Once a supplier asked why a shipment disappeared off the books. He never came back after that." Monica narrowed her eyes. "And why me? Why take the risk with that note?" Lindsay finally met her gaze. "Riverbend, 6 years ago. You walked into the grand opening. A man started choking at table 5. I was the only one who saw it. I ran, got him to breathe again. Everyone clapped, but you. You walked over and handed me $200. You looked me in the eye and said, 'I'm proud of how fast you moved.' I never forgot that, because no one else ever said anything like that to me. And when I saw you walk in here yesterday, I knew. No one sits at table 9 like that unless they're here for a reason." Monica didn't reply, but something behind her eyes shifted. Recognition, pain, and quiet fury laced together. Lindsay reached into her apron and pulled out a folded piece of cloth. Inside it was a small, worn silver key. Locker labeled BL, top row, far end of the corridor past the walk-in freezer. "Bryce thinks no one knows it exists, but I've seen him stuff a black duffel bag in there more than once. Always when no one's looking." Monica took the key without a word. Lindsay bit her lip. "If you go in there and he finds you, he'll make you disappear too, just like the others." Monica's voice was calm, resolute. "He's not the one who should be afraid." Lindsay blinked, the weight of the moment thick in the cramped room. "You'll come back?" "Tomorrow," Monica said, "but not as a customer." She turned to leave, then stopped. Her eyes swept the space. Open aspirin bottle on the shelf, a half-empty can of Monster sitting next to a cold microwave meal still sealed in its plastic tray, a pair of water-soaked sneakers drying under the heater vent. This wasn't just a storeroom. It was where people survived. Later that night, Monica lay awake in her motel room, lit only by the pale blue of a silent television screen. She held the key between her fingers, cool and unassuming. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. She opened the message. Dumpster, 11 p.m. Come alone. Monica arrived 3 minutes early. The alley behind Harrison's Chop House was quieter than usual, but not silent. The backlight from the kitchen door flickered, illuminating the dumpster and patchy asphalt. A gust of wind cut through her hoodie, stinging her cheeks. She pulled her gloves tighter and waited. At 10:59 p.m., the metal door creaked open. Lindsay stepped out, wearing a hoodie pulled low, hair tied back. She didn't speak right away. Her hands trembled slightly as she passed Monica a folded napkin. "The real key," she whispered. "Locker BL, top row. Maps inside. You'll have maybe 5 minutes. Bryce checks door logs in the mornings." Monica nodded and placed a hand on Lindsay's arm. "If anything seems off, you leave. Immediately. No heroics." Lindsay nodded, eyes tight with fear, then disappeared into the dark. The next morning, Monica returned as if nothing had happened. Same table, same server, same weary smile. She added dessert this time, pecan pie, claiming a sweet tooth, but really buying time. Bryce came over before her coffee arrived. "Back again?" His smile was all surface. "We should give you a loyalty card." "I'm still deciding if it's worth being loyal to," Monica said without looking up. He chuckled, but the edge in her tone made him pause. Then he walked away. 15 minutes later, Monica paid in cash, left a modest tip, and made her way to the hallway near the mop sink. She slid the broom handle she'd tucked in her coat sleeve into the door jamb behind her, a wedge just strong enough to delay any latch from catching. The employee locker room was narrow, dimly lit, and smelled faintly of bleach and old leather. Tiled floors were stained. Metal lockers rusted at the corners, names scratched off with keys. Monica moved fast. She found locker BL at the end of the top row. The key fit. The lock clicked. She exhaled. Inside, a black duffel bag filled the space. She pulled it out and unzipped. Bundles of cash filled half the interior, thick rolls held with rubber bands. Most were small bills, some damp or grease-stained. No records, no ledgers. In a side pocket, she found a burner phone. Basic model, battery nearly dead. She powered it on. Unread messages filled the screen. Names or codes, GT, Langley, HQ. Lines like, Q3 wine volume settled. Tip float handled. Floor team cut confirmed. Manager tier 2 override logged. She opened a thread with GT. The last message read, Monica's presence noted. Contingency? Her pulse quickened. She continued scanning the bag. At the bottom, beneath a folded jacket, she found a folded invoice from Langley Distributors. It had been heavily redacted. Lines crossed with Sharpie, but on the back, in handwritten scrawl, handled off book, Langley okayed. Monica reached into the back of the locker. A narrow compartment held a black notebook. Langley's daily log. The cover was cracked and coffee-stained. She opened it. Pages were messy, some torn out, others scribbled over hastily. Still, patterns emerged. 4 hours, Elijah, adjusted under shift overlap. Split Jess tips 80-20, B holds diff. 2 crates comped, not logged, delete from night shift record. Names, dates, manipulations. People reduced to numbers on a page. Monica's stomach clenched. She pulled out her phone and began snapping photos, page after page. She backed them up to a cloud drive and sent a secure folder link to Alicia with the subject line, URGENTWHISTLEMATERIAL. She zipped the bag, returned everything exactly as she found it, and relocked the door. Then she froze. The faint click of a door behind her. Footsteps. Bryce stepped into the locker room, silent, arms crossed. He didn't smile this time. Camera said the back door opened 20 minutes ago, he said. Guess who forgot to deactivate the motion log? Monica turned, calm. Interesting. You track entrances, but not the rot growing inside your own system. He pulled out his phone and pointed it at her. You're trespassing, on camera. "You're filming the woman whose name is still on the foundational charter of this chain," she said. "Every license, every original operations agreement, signed by me." Bryce narrowed his eyes. "You're digging in the wrong place, lady." "No," Monica said softly. "I'm finally digging in the right one." He stepped closer. "You think you know what this is? You don't even know who's pulling the strings." She didn't respond. Bryce smirked. "Glenn Tate, he's the one who brought me in. I clean messes. I make numbers match. You want to keep going? You're going to find your old friend behind every locked door." There it was, the name. Glenn Tate. Monica's breath caught, but she didn't let it show. Without a word, she turned and walked past him, her hands in her coat pockets, fingertips tight around the phone. As she reached the door, she stopped for a heartbeat, then said quietly, "Then I'll start cleaning from the top," and walked out. Monica returned to her motel just after 2 in the afternoon. The sky outside had turned a dull, metallic gray, and a light drizzle tapped the windows like fingers on glass. At the front desk, the clerk handed her a thick envelope, heavy, official, and bleeding tension. Red letters across the top read, "Cease and desist. Urgent." The return address bore the cold, familiar stamp of Ashburn Legal. She walked it to her room without a word, peeled off her coat, and sat at the edge of the bed. The envelope was warm from her hands, but the air inside turned cold as she unfolded the documents. Typed in sterile, machine-perfect font were accusations that felt personal. Unauthorized access, interference with operational integrity, violation of internal security protocols. The signature at the bottom was unmistakable. Glenn Tate. She stared at his name for a full minute, the letters blurring slightly. Not because of shock, not anymore, but because something deeper, older, twisted inside her. Glenn had once been her right hand, her strategist, her shield when rooms got too white, too male, too ready to cut her out. She had trusted him with everything, and now he was using the law to erase her from the system she had built. She took a picture of the letter and sent it to Alicia, her longtime attorney and oldest friend in the fight. Within minutes, Alicia replied, "He's trying to silence you, and if he's pulling legal muscle, it means you're getting too close. Don't stop." Monica nodded to herself. She wouldn't. She opened her phone and scrolled to her text with Lindsay. There, timestamped just hours earlier, was a photo Lindsay had taken of the week's shift schedule. Elijah's name was listed clearly, written in pen. A line had been drawn through it, replaced by the word unavailable. But Lindsay had confirmed. Elijah had worked that full shift. Quiet, diligent, unnoticed. Until someone had decided he didn't belong. Monica's fingers clenched. She stood, walked to the window and stared through the rain as memories returned like bruises resurfacing under skin. She thought back to the first time she met Glenn, how young he had seemed then, how eager to build something better. He'd been the one to tell her that ownership without empathy was just management. He used to believe that. She opened her laptop and cued the audio file she had recorded during her confrontation with Bryce. She fast-forwarded, slowed it down, looped the part where he said it. "Glenn Tate hired me. He knows everything." She sat back and let the words fill the room. Let them harden her. Then she opened a new document and began typing. Title, Cleansing Protocol, Fort Alder. She outlined every step with surgical clarity. Release evidence to the press. Photos, texts, logs, invoices. Collect testimonials from other branches. Build a regional case. Bypass Glenn and submit directly to the board. Demand third-party audit and internal review of regional management. She attached all scanned documents to an encrypted drive. Every page of Langley's logbook, every burner phone message, every time-stamped photo Lindsay had sent. Then she wrote a note to Alicia. "I'm not interested in a settlement. I want structural change, and I want their system to know it's being watched." As she hit send, her phone rang. It was Lindsay. "Are you okay?" Monica asked, already knowing the answer. "I'm scared," Lindsay admitted. "I keep checking the schedule. My name's still on it, but I don't know for how long." "You want to pull out?" Monica asked gently. There was a pause, then a deep breath. Number, "I'm scared, but I'm more scared of staying quiet, of watching it happen to someone else next." Monica smiled into the silence. "Good. Then meet me tomorrow. Same cafe, 9 sharp. We won't speak the truth. We'll show it." When the call ended, Monica stayed by the window. The rain had stopped. The clouds hadn't. She returned to her desk and pulled up an old personnel archive. Her own digital footprint was still tied to the original bylaws of the company. She traced Glenn's signature through a series of policy changes made over the last 3 years, each one inching the company further from transparency, from dignity, from the founding principles they once clung to. What once had been a people-first chain had become another cog in a machine that punished dissent and rewarded silence. The last document was a memo Glenn had signed into effect just 8 months prior. Discretionary control of operational scheduling granted to regional managers. That was the clause Bryce had been hiding behind. That was what needed to be torn out by the root. Just before midnight, Monica turned off the lights and lay in bed. She stared at the ceiling fan, counting the seconds between each slow revolution. Her mind churned. At 3:47 a.m., her phone buzzed. No name, just a new email. Subject line: Langley wasn't the only book. Check night log cabinet. Her eyes sharpened. So the rot went deeper, and someone inside wanted her to know. The next morning, Monica and Lindsay met Owen Ridge at the Rusty Perk, a forgotten little coffee shop near the gas station, where even the espresso machine wheezed like it had survived 3 wars. The booth was cracked vinyl, the wood-paneled walls yellowed from decades of cigarette smoke, and the fluorescent bulbs buzzed with every voltage shift. It was the kind of place that expected truth to be uncomfortable. Owen looked exactly as Monica remembered from his articles: rumpled jacket, spiral notebook already open, pen in one hand, suspicion in both eyes. I've written about poultry farms hiding abuses and sugarcane mills that worked kids off the books, he said without preamble. You're saying a steakhouse is just as dirty? Monica didn't flinch. I'm saying it's worse because we pretended it wasn't. She laid out the evidence. Printed photos of Langley's log, the burner phone messages, the redacted invoices, the handwritten note, handled off book. Langley okayed. The folder of images, marked schedules, shift overrides, tip deductions, surveillance angles, and Bryce's silent grip over every minute. Then Lindsay spoke. Her voice trembled, but her words were sharp. She described how a single mother had been dropped from the schedule after questioning her paycheck, how Elijah's hours were erased for no reason, how they were told, "Complainers don't last long." Owen listened carefully, nodding occasionally, his pen moving constantly. Do you want your names on the record? Monica leaned back. Mine goes at the top. Lindsay hesitated, then said, They already took our voices. I'm just taking mine back. Owen smiled grimly. Then let's make sure no one can pretend they didn't know. 2 days later, the story went live. The headline: Black woman owner uncovers rot at the heart of her own empire. The hashtag spread instantly. Monica knows. Shop house cleanup. Shinashu justice at table 9. Within hours, Twitter ignited. TikTok users clipped AI-generated voiceovers reading excerpts of the article, dramatizing the confrontation between Monica and Bryce. Reddit threads dissected the burner phone messages line by line. People asked how to donate to the staff. Others asked how many other chains were built like this. By day's end, a former cook from the New Orleans branch posted anonymously, I thought it was just my manager. Turns out it was the whole damn skeleton underneath the steak. Someone leaked an old video of Bryce shouting at a teenage hostess until she cried, recorded secretly by a kitchen hand. It resurfaced on every major social platform. The clip hit 2.3 million views in under 48 hours. Then came the call. Victor Coleman, CEO of the parent company, known for avoiding headlines and pretending problems solved themselves, reached Monica's cell. We need to sit down, he said. This is spiraling. No boardrooms, Monica replied. No PR handlers. Sunday, Fort Alder, table 9, just you and me. Before hanging up, she added, and bring your signature hand. That same day, she sent a memo to every employee of the Fort Alder branch. Mandatory meeting after closing Sunday night. Attendance expected. This isn't discipline, it's freedom. That Sunday evening, the dining room looked nothing like the one she had first walked into weeks ago. Staff gathered with faces drawn tight from worry, uncertainty in every step. A few clutched, folded resignation letters expecting retaliation. Others whispered in corners, wondering if this was the night everything would fall apart or fall into place. At exactly 10:02 p.m., Monica emerged from the office. No coat, no hat, no disguise. She walked with quiet gravity to the center of the room. Behind her, Lindsay stood holding a sealed envelope. Monica raised her voice. Bryce Mullen has been terminated, effective immediately. No HR filter, no graceful exit, just out. She let the words settle. Glenn Tate, once a man I trusted, is now under internal investigation. The audit began yesterday. His access is suspended. A ripple of gasps spread through the room. To anyone here who had their hours manipulated, tips stolen, or dignity stripped, legal aid will be provided. You will be heard. And if you were part of the silence but want to step forward, we are offering amnesty, but it starts with truth. Then Monica turned to Lindsay. And to the one person who dared when no one else would, this letter confirms your promotion. You're the new branch manager. Lindsay's eyes welled up, her hand trembling as she accepted the envelope. Around her, the staff applauded, not the polite kind, but raw, cathartic release. One dishwasher whispered, "Finally, someone stood with us." The meeting ended with quiet hugs, stunned silence, and tears no longer held back. Later that night, alone in her office, Monica powered up her laptop. A new anonymous email waited. Subject line, search, HR blacklist internal.xlsx, hidden tab greater than terminated override. She opened the attached file. What she saw made her stomach drop. Hundreds of names, employees from across the chain, all marked non-rehirable, many with spotless records, some with no incident logged. They hadn't just punished the loud, they had erased the loyal. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes for a long moment, then whispered, "I thought I'd reached the bottom, but there's a basement under the basement." Sunday morning, 9 a.m., Monica sat alone at table 9, the same spot where it had all begun. No scarf, no coat, no disguise. Her hair, soft and natural, framed her face without apology. She wore a simple black blouse, crisp slacks, and the kind of stillness that made people listen even before she spoke. Beside her sat a thick folder, documents, transcripts, photos, and a single printed sheet listing 4 demands, bold and non-negotiable. A cup of steaming black tea sat untouched beside them. Victor Coleman entered 5 minutes late. No tie, no briefcase. Just the tired look of a man who knew he had already lost something and wasn't sure how much more he could afford to give. He approached without fanfare and took the seat across from her. Monica didn't stand. She didn't offer a smile. She simply opened the folder and slid the list across the table. 4 things, she said, and no compromises. Coleman picked up the sheet. Full reimbursement of all miscalculated wages to staff across the entire chain, backdated 2 years. An anonymous whistleblower hotline connected directly to the board, not through regional managers. Mandatory public display of pay, tip, and shift policies in every kitchen and staff room. Basic health coverage for all part-time employees, effective immediately. He read them twice. "You're asking for a cost revolution," he said. Monica's voice was even. "Number, I'm stopping a human one, before it burns your whole empire down." He stared at her, then the paper, then back again. For a long, heavy moment, neither said a word. Then finally he exhaled. "I don't want to see my name in the next headline." "You won't," Monica said, "unless you put it there." He nodded, and they shook hands, not in agreement, but in accountability. As Coleman left, Monica stayed seated. Her eyes lingered on the glass pane beside the table, now wiped clean and reflecting only the morning light. She let the silence settle like a benediction. Inside the kitchen, Lindsay was plating breakfast for the staff. Toast, eggs, fruit, nothing fancy. When Monica stepped into the kitchen, Lindsay looked up and smiled. Monica placed an envelope in front of her, along with a folded note. "For the night you dared." Lindsay opened it slowly. Inside was $2,000 in cash and a handwritten message. "You were the fire they never saw coming." Her breath caught, and she whispered, "I never thought one whisper could shift an entire chain of restaurants." "It wasn't the whisper," Monica replied. "It was the courage to say it." Over the next week, the restaurant began to change. Former employees called asking to return. Monica made it clear second chances were offered to those who deserved them, and only if they came ready to do better. Every shift lead was required to complete 3 days working entry-level positions. No power, no name tags, just the grind, to feel the pressure they once ignored. The kitchen grew lighter. Music returned to the prep stations. Staff began to joke again. The quiet wasn't fear anymore. It was focus, and the laughter was real. One afternoon, Elijah ran across the kitchen to wrap Monica in a tight hug. "My mom says thank you," he said. "She said you were the first person who called her ma'am instead of hey you." Monica blinked hard, then knelt and hugged him back. "Tell her I said she deserved better. Always." That night, long after the last customer left and the chairs had been flipped, Monica sat once more at table 9. Lindsay brought her a plate, hot grits, butter melting into the center, 2 slices of toast perfectly brown. No garnish, no drama. Just enough. "This is for you," Lindsay said. Monica ate slowly. The lights above her glowed warm and steady. Somewhere in the back, a dishwasher hummed. Someone laughed. Someone else sang off-key. It was the music of a place reclaiming itself. She looked around, not as the owner, not as the enforcer, but as someone who had finally brought the fire back to the kitchen, where it belonged. Because this had never been about steak. It had been about who controls the heat and who gets burned. She leaned back, sipping the last of her tea, and whispered to herself, "Change doesn't start with ownership, it starts with courage." And this time, courage had curls and combat boots. In the end, it wasn't just a steak, it was about courage. A waitress who dared to secretly slip a note, an undercover black woman owner who chose to listen and act. What would you have done? Read it and walked away, or burn the whole system down? If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you pause, hit like, subscribe, and don't leave without adding your voice. We want to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next fight for dignity.